Vrndavana Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Vrndavana Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Vrndavana Janavallabha Vrndavana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Rajajana Yashodanandana Rajajana Jana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Sida Vanachari Yamuna Vanachari Vanacharya Adhama Vrndavihari Ayadhama Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Vrndavana Gopijana Vallabha Vrndavana Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Vrndavana Janavallabha Vrndavana Yashodanandana Rajajana Jana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Jana Jana Ranjana Anachari Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Vanachari Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur. Reading from Prabhupada Lilamrita. The Gaur Society of New York Incorporated cordially invites you to a lecture. Looks like this is an advertisement for a talk by Prabhupada. A lecture entitled God Consciousness by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, dated Sunday, November 28th, 1965, 3:30 p.m. and tea at 4:30 p.m. Place, New India House, 3 East 64th Street. A widely respected scholar and religious leader in India, Swami Bhaktivedanta is briefly visiting New York. He has been engaged in monumental endeavor of translating the 60-volume Srimad Bhagavatam from Sanskrit into English. November 28th. Daud Haroon had never met Srila Prabhupada. He was a musician living downtown, and the meeting of the Tagore Society up on 64th Street. And he used to attend the meeting. Daud Haroon, I went uptown and walked into the auditorium, and I noticed that the stage was empty, and a few people were sitting towards the rear of the auditorium. I walked forward down the center aisle, because I usually like to sit up front, when I saw an old gentleman sitting over to the right, and he sort of drew me over to him. So I went over and sat beside him, and then I noticed that he was saying his beads. Even though he had his beads in a bag, I could hear them, and I could see his body moving, and I felt very comfortable, because this was something I was used to. As I was sitting there looking around the auditorium, he just turned around and smiled at me very nicely. He nodded his head, and I nodded my head, and he smiled and turned around. Then he turned back to me again and softly asked if I was from India. I said, no, sir, I'm not from India. I'm from here, the United States. He turned back and he kept chanting with his beads. Then he turned around the next time and asked if I was a Hindu. I said, no, sir, I'm not a Hindu. I'm a Muslim. And he said, oh, very good, very good. Yes, many times I hear the children in India reciting the Quran. And then he turned back around and his body was moving, rocking, and he was working with his beads. Then there were a few more exchanges of pleasantries, sort of intermittent. And then a lady came up on the stage and announced that the lecture was to begin. And if the folks could give the speaker a round of applause, they would welcome him to the stage. At that point, the man I was sitting next to put his hand on my shoulder and said, excuse me, sir, could you do me a favor? And I said, yes, anything. He said, would you watch over my books? I looked down to the floor and he had several boxes of books and an umbrella and several other articles. I said, yes, I would watch over these. And he said, excuse me. He walked up the aisle and surprisingly, he walked up to the stage. And it was the man I had come to hear, Swami Bhaktivedanta. He walked up on the stage and introduced himself to the people and tried to get them to come forward. He said, come forward, come forward. A few of them came up to the front. There were mixed couples, many Indians, male and female, mostly middle-aged and some college-aged. A lot of professor types and ladies were there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sarvasashabdi Piyusa, Sarvavedaka Satpala, Sarvasiddhantaratnadya, Sarvaloikakadritpada, O nectar of the ocean of all scriptures, single fruit of all the Vedas, rich mind, precious gems of all conclusive truths. You're the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu, Parivantarvatya, Shri Krishna Parivartita. Exactly, Shri Krishna Paramananda Bhattaya, Prema Bhakshasharaya Te Sarvada Sarvasiddhaya, Shri Krishna Namaste. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read, every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone, your Shri Krishna himself. Hare Kabando Matsangin, Madhuro Manmahadana, Panishtaraka Madbhagya Madanandana Mostu. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu sadhu tadani matina jita. Chidman, prema hirt pinterospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalted of the most fallen. Please never leave me, always appear in my heart. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the 4th canto, chapter 24, text number 28. I'll chant the verse 3 times and then we'll move forward. Shri Rudra Vacha Yuyam Vedisha Putara Veditam Vaschikirshitam Anugrahaya Badaram Va Evam Me Darshanam Kritam Yuyam Vedishada Putara Viditam Vaschikirshitam Anugrahaya Badaram Va Evam Me Darshanam Kritam Yuyam Vedishida Putara Viditam Vaschikirshitam Anugrahaya Badaram Va Eva Me Darshanam Kritam. Shri Rudra Uvacha, Lord Shiva began to speak. Yuyam, all of you, Vidishada of King Prachinapari, Putra, sons, Viditam, knowing, Va, your, Chikirshitam, desires, Anugrahaya, for the matter of showing you mercy. Badram, all good fortune unto you. Va, all of you. Evam, thus. Me, my. Darshanam, audience. Kritam, you have gone. You have done. Translation. Lord Shiva said, you are all the sons of King Prachinapari, and I wish all good fortune to you. I also know that what you are going to do, and therefore I am visible to you, just to show my mercy upon you. Purport. By these words, Lord Shiva indicates that what the princes were going to do was known to him. It is a fact that they were going to worship Lord Vishnu by severe austerities and penances. Knowing this fact, Lord Shiva immediately became very pleased, and as apparent by the next verse. This indicates that a person who is not yet a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but who desires to serve the Supreme Lord, receives the benedictions of the demigods, headed by the chief demigod, Lord Shiva. Thus, a devotee of the Lord does not need to try to please the demigods separately. Simply by worshipping the Supreme Lord, a devotee can please all of them. Nor does he have to ask the demigods for material benedictions, for the demigods, being pleased with the devotee, automatically offer him everything that he needs. The demigods are servants of the Lord, and they are always prepared to help the devotee in all circumstances. Therefore, Srila Bilva Mangala Thakur said that if one has unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Lord, the goddess of liberation is ready to serve him, to say nothing of gods of material opulences. Indeed, all the demigods are simply waiting for an opportunity to serve the devotee. Thus, there is no need for a devotee of Krishna to endeavor for material opulence or liberation. By being situated in the transcendental position of devotional service, he receives all benefits of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Omgyana timirandasya janandana shalakaya. Chakshuran militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Shiva is speaking here, and he is indicating that he is pleased with the Prachetas. Why? Because he knows they are going to worship Vishnu. There's a very famous verse where Lord Shiva speaks to his wife Parvati, Aradhanam Sarvesham, Vishnu Aradhanam Panam, Tasmat Paratanam Devi, Tadiyanam Samarchanam. Of all kinds of worship, Shiva recommends, worship of Vishnu is supreme. And even better than worship of Vishnu is worship of that in relation to Vishnu, Tadiya. Tadiya in particular refers to Tulsi, refers to the Ganges, to Yamuna, and particularly to the Vaishnavas. So superior than worship of Vishnu is actually the worship of Vaishnava. All these other personalities, the Ganges, Yamuna, Tulsi, they're actually devotees. They're personified forms. And so today is a special day. Today is the ceremony of Govardhan Puja. Temple we are celebrating on Sunday, but today is the actual date. So the greatest of all devotees is said to be Govardhan. Srimati Radharani prays, Haridasa Varyo, Hantaya Madhurya Bala, Haridasa Varyo, Vidrama Krishna Charanaspara Pramoda, Manam Tanoti Sahagogana Yustayor Yat, Hani Yasu Vasakandara Kanda. Of all devotees of Lord Hari, this Govardhan hill is the best. Well, my friends, this Govardhan is supplying Krishna and Balaram, along with their calves, cows, cowherd boyfriends, with all kinds of necessities: water for drinking, fresh grass, caves, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. In this way, Govardhan Hill offers respects to the Lord. And being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhan Hill appears very jubilant. So Govardhan Hill is the greatest of devotee because he's offering so many services to Krishna and Balaram. It's described that the waterfalls at Govardhan Hill are fragrant and very sweet. Govardhan provides many fruits and also fruit juices like mango juice. It supplies honey from its trees. It supplies minerals that the cowherd boys decorate themselves with. It supplies caves that the cowherd boys rest in, that also Radha and Krishna perform pastimes within. And ultimately, it provides the stage for Krishna's pastimes. We know Krishna descends to this world periodically, and the purpose of his appearance here is to attract conditioned souls to him. And so when he comes, he performs. He performs very amazing pastimes, extraordinary, like the lifting of Govardhan Hill. And Prabhupada describes that he actually performs them as a human being would. For example, lifting Govardhan Hill, Krishna doesn't have to do it with his hand. He can just lift it by his desire, just let it levitate as he's lifting all the planets up in the sky, just by his desire. But no, he does it with his hand. Why? Because human beings, we lift things with our hand. So in this way, his pastimes are very relatable to us. So Govardhan Hill provides the stage for Krishna's pastimes. Krishna appears, he brings his associates with him, and he brings his abode with him. as well. So it's described that Govardhan appeared before Krishna's appearance. In Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna was getting ready to descend, and he told Srimati Radharani, "Get ready, we're going to Gokula. We're going to earth." Radharani said, "I will only go if the river Yamuna, Govardhan Hill, and Vraj is there." Krishna said, "Do not worry, they are already there." Actually, Govardhan Hill was here from the beginning of Satya Yuga. It's described that at one point, Pulasya Muni tried to steal him. And also Hanuman, when Lord Ram was building a bridge to Lanka, Hanuman was picking up different mountains and throwing them into the ocean. So he went to pick up Govardhan. And just when he was about to pick up Govardhan to throw him, a voice resonated in the sky that the bridge is completed. You don't have to pick up this mountain anymore. And so Govardhan actually was a little upset. He was thinking, "Oh, I just missed my opportunity to serve my Lord Ram." And Lord Ram assured him, "Do not worry, in my future incarnation, I will lift you up personally." So originally Govardhan was in a location named Samali Dweep, if I'm not mistaken. And he took birth, he appeared as the son of Dronachal, who was a very great mountain. And he was living there happily. And once Pulasya Muni came, and Pulasya saw the mountain, and he decided, "This mountain is very beautiful. I want him. It looks like this mountain can give liberation on his own." So he decided, I want to take Govardhan with me, and I'll take him to Kashi, where I reside. But Dronachal was very attached to Govardhan, his son. So Pulasya asked Dronachal, "Please give me your son Govardhan." And Dronachal didn't want to do that, but Govardhan knew that if Dronachal disagreed, Pulasya Muni would curse him. So Govardhan spoke up and he said, "Well, my sage, my dear sage, how are you going to carry me? I'm very heavy. How are you going to get me to Kashi?" Pulasya said, "Don't worry, I can pick you up with my hand. I'm very powerful." So Govardhan said, "Okay, you can do that, but on one condition. If wherever you put me down, if you happen to place me down, I will not move again from there." So he did that. Pulasya Muni was carrying Govardhan, and on the way, by providence, they came across Vraj. And Govardhan decided, "This is where I have to stay. I can't leave this vicinity." So he arranged Govardhan by his mystic power that Pulasya Muni becomes bewildered and forgets about the condition and feels the call of nature. And so Pulasya Muni put Govardhan down, went to use the bathroom, and he came back thinking, "I'll pick up Govardhan again." But when he came to pick up Govardhan, he couldn't. With all his strength, he was unable to do so. And so Pulasya Muni became upset and he cursed Govardhan that every day, okay, you can stay here, but every day you will shrink into the ground by the measurement of one mustard seed. So it's described that originally Govardhan actually used to be so high that the sun god's horses would graze, will stop daily to eat grass from Govardhan Hill. But gradually it's diminishing, and it's described that within 10,000 years of Kali, the whole of Govardhan will not be visible anymore. And as long as the river Yamuna and Govardhan Hill is visible, the full effects of Kali will not take place. So we're very fortunate that we can see Govardhan Hill now, the stage for Krishna's pastimes. And if we have an opportunity, we should take it to go there. The atmosphere is very beautiful. And so Govardhan is hosting unlimited pastimes of the Supreme Lord. But Govardhan Leela, the lifting of Govardhan, is the most prominent because Govardhan is center in that pastime. So the Govardhan Leela began with the deliverance of the wives of the Brahmanas. You know, Krishna book. Krishna and Balaram were in the forest, and the cowherd boys decided Krishna must be hungry. So they approached Krishna and they said, "Krishna, we are hungry. Krishna, you killed so many demons. So now please relieve us from this demon of hunger." So Krishna told them, "Okay, there are some Brahmanas nearby. You go to them and you beg them for some food. But don't beg them in the name of me, in my name. Rather say that Balaram is there and Balaram wants food." Because Balaram was a Kshatriya, Krishna was known as a Vaishya, and charity generally is to be given to higher classes. So the cowherd boys went, they begged for food. The Brahmanas They didn't even reply with a simple yes or no, Prabhupada describes. And the cowherd boys were a little bit annoyed, you can say. They went back to Krishna. They said, "Can you believe it? They didn't give us anything." Krishna said, "This is the way of begging. Do not be disturbed." And he sent them to the Brahmana's wives. He said, "You go to them. They are pure. They will give you immediately." So sure enough, the cowherd boys went. The Brahmana's wives were very eager. As soon as they heard Krishna and Balaram, they started to gather so much wonderful preparations. The preparations were very nice because actually they were meant for the yajna, but the Brahmana's wives didn't care. They took everything, put it in pots, and started going directly to go see Krishna and Balaram. And so when they got there, the Brahmana's wives were so eager to see Krishna and so happy that it's described that they saw Krishna face to face and they took him to their hearts through their eyes. This is what a devotee does when he sees the Lord. When we see the deity, for example, we take darshan of the Lord, and the more that the affection is there, the more that the Lord actually enters within our heart. That image becomes imprinted within our consciousness. For example, I had the good fortune to worship Gaurnitai, Paramakruna Gaurnitai, for a few years. And although I haven't been around them for 2 years or so now, still sometimes when I chant my japa, they manifest within my vision. And so this is very important, a principle for us to remember, that when we take darshan of the Lord, we should embrace, we can do that actually, embrace the Lord within our consciousness, although we not may be able to embrace him with our body. So the Brahmana's wives did that. And then finally, the Brahmanas, their husbands, they realize what a mistake they have made. And they actually wanted to go and pay obeisances to Krishna, but they were afraid because Krishna was still there in the same village. But they're afraid that if we go do this, Kamsa may see us. So Prabhupada describes that they did not have the spiritual strength to be able to give up their material considerations as their wives done. And so the Bhagavatam describes that in that vicinity, in that same village, while those Brahmanas were trying to conduct the sacrifice, Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men were also there in that village, and they were performing another sacrifice. So Krishna saw them, and he asked his father, "My father, what is this that you are doing?" Nanda Maharaj thought, "You are too young, don't worry about this." Krishna persisted. "Please tell me, is this sacrifice, is it a Vedic sacrifice, or is it just some popular ceremony? What are you doing here?" So Nanda Maharaj began to describe to Krishna what is happening. This is a sacrifice for Indra. We are dependent on him. He provides the rain for our livelihood. And Krishna, he remembered or knew that Indra is proud. And so it's described that 2 reasons why Krishna began to refute Nanda Maharaj or try to divert this sacrifice. One is that he knew Indra was proud and he wanted to purify his devotee. Another reason for the Govardhan Leela is that the devotees of Krishna, they always want to be with him. But Krishna is always with some devotees at different times. He's never with all of them all of the time. For example, when he's in the forest with the cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda is deprived of his presence and the gopis are not there. When he's with the gopis, the cowherd boys are not there. When he's with Mother Yashoda, the cowherd boys and the gopis are not there. So he's always with somebody, but at other points, somebody's feeling separation. Even when Krishna goes behind a tree, the cowherd boys, they feel separation from him because he's not in their vision. And the gopis, they lament, why do we have eyelids? Because when we blink, we are not able to see Krishna. So the second reason for this Govardhan Leela is that Krishna was arranging a situation where he would be with all of his devotees at the same time for a long time. And so he began to speak to Nanda Maharaj, his father, that actually we are not dependent on Indra. Everyone is dependent on their own karma. He began to speak what is known as karma mimamsa. He said, if you just do your karma, then you will get the result. And even Indra, he can only give you benedictions once you perform your karma. So in this way, he is also dependent on the activities the living entity performs. And he also said that Indra is showering rain even on the ocean, but the ocean is not performing any sacrifice. So don't worry about him. Actually, who are we dependent on? We are dependent on Govardhan Hill, because our livelihood is the cows, and Govardhan Hill is providing everything necessary for cows, particularly grasses. So after some back and forth, Krishna finally convinced Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd boys to start worshipping Govardhan. They took everything. They cooked up very wonderful preparations under Krishna's direction. And they first began to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. And then they presented all their offerings. And when they did so, Krishna decided Govardhan should take on a personal form to convince the Vrajavasis that this is the right thing that they have done. So Govardhan did that. He manifested a huge form. It's described that the form actually was very fearful. And in seconds, they offered everything. And in seconds, Govardhan Hill devoured it all. So then they had to cook up more, and they presented it again and again. Govardhan Hill devoured everything within seconds. He was shouting, Anior, Anior, give me more, give me more. And so this fearful form, devouring everything and also asking for more and more. And by the end of it, the Vrajavasis, they had given everything and they were in anxiety. What more are we going to give? It's just unlimited how many preparations he can take. So it's described that Balaram knew how to satisfy this very intimidating form of Govardhan. How did he do that? He took a tulsi leaf, he ran up, he offered it to Govardhan, and that was the end. Govardhan was passive. And so in this Govardhan Puja, we do like that. There's unlimited preparations offered to Govardhan in every temple and in all the temples simultaneously. Krishna is eating unlimited offerings. And so after doing like this, the residents were very satisfied. Govardhan Hill was satisfied. But who was not satisfied? Indra. He became angry. So he decided, I have to do something about this. So what did Indra do? He sent, as we know, his servants, the Samvartaka clouds, which are meant for the devastation of the universe. He began to shower rain and hailstorm and ice on Vrindavan. It's described that the rain was like piercing arrows, but at the same time, it was as thick as pillars. And you could not distinguish between higher and lower ground. The whole Vrindavan was inundated. And everyone was in distress, but particularly the cows were very distressed. So everyone approached Krishna. Krishna, please save us. Another calamity is coming upon us. So what did Krishna do? He ran to a cave of Govardhan. He ran into the cave and he disappeared. And next, the residents of Vrindavan saw the lift, the hill, Govardhan Hill, rising. And Govardhan Hill was rising and rising, and they looked underneath it. And Krishna was there with his left hand underneath the hill, picking it up. And underneath the hill, it's described that it was like a palatial environment. Everything was very nice. It wasn't like a dirty, gritty, rubble, filthy place where nobody wants to go. But it was like a palatial environment with all kinds of facilities for everyone to stay. So Krishna said, come on under this umbrella of Govardhan Hill. This is the perfect arrangement to save you from this calamity. So they all came in, they brought their cows, their calves, their paraphernalia, and they remained there. How long? For 7 days. And underneath, everyone was just looking at Krishna, and they always thought Krishna is looking directly at me. And everyone was very happy. Everyone was there together. It's described that Madhu Mangal sometimes would tell Krishna, Krishna, you must be getting tired. Let me lift the hill. I can do it. Sometimes Madhurya Yashoda would try to feed Krishna. Krishna, you must be hungry. You haven't ate anything in so long. Sometimes at one point, Krishna was looking at the gopis and he became a little distracted. So his fingers started to shake. So the hill also began to wobble and everyone became a little afraid. Krishna put it together up again. So the environment underneath Govardhan Hill was very pleasing, and all his devotees were able to be with him for a prolonged period. And so after 7 days, Indra began to realize this is not an ordinary boy. This is actually my Lord. He is the supreme, not I. So he desisted. He called off his clouds and he thought, I have to go apologize. But he was very afraid. So he went to Lord Brahma because he knew Brahma had offended Krishna before. So he went to get some advice and he asked Brahma, what should I do? And Brahma said, I've offended Krishna, but not like you. I stole the cowherd boys, but you tried to kill them. So your offense is much more severe. So he said, what you can do is you take a Surabi cow with you, because Krishna is very affectionate to cows. And Indra did that. He went with Surabi to Govardhan. He paid his respects and offered many prayers to Krishna. And he performed an Abhishek ceremony with the milk of the Surabi and also with celestial Ganges water that he had brought in the trunk of Airavata. And so it's described that actually for offenders or those who feel that they have committed some offenses, if they go to Surabi Kund, which is still there, Surabi still resides there, one can pray and beg for the strength to be able to deal with offenses. And so this was the conclusion. Krishna purified his devotee, Indra, and he also allowed for loving pastimes with everyone. At the end of the Govardhan Leela, it's described that the water of all the rivers became sweet. The trees began to ooze with honey. The mountains produced minerals, and everything was very wonderful. So Govardhan Hill is the stage for Krishna's pastime. This Govardhan Leela is there. But there are many other wonderful pastimes. When we go to Govardhan, the brahmacharis, we're very lucky because we get to stay at Govardhan Palace. It's a wonderful property that was acquired by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And it's right, basically maybe 20 meters from the door is Govardhan Hill. It's a very sweet environment, and often we can go on parikrama, we can see all these pastime places. A wonderful place I used to like to go to this past visit at the beginning of this year, because it's very close, it's maybe like a 5-minute walk from the palace, was Manasi Ganga. Manasi Ganga is situated right near the temple of Haridev, where Mahaprabhu danced right before he did Govardhan Parikrama. And it gets its name, Manasi, from the mind Ganga, the Ganges, because it was manifested from Krishna's mind. After Krishna killed the calf demon, Vatsasura, the cowherd boys asked Krishna, you have killed a cow, this is a sinful activity, so you have to take bath in the Ganges to purify yourself. Krishna didn't want to leave Vraj to go to the Ganges, so he decided, I'll just manifest the Ganges here. So from his mind, Manasi Ganga was manifested, he took a bath there, and the cowherd boys were happy. The famous boat pastime with the gopis occurred in Manasi Ganga. There's the big picture of it in the temple, where the gopis are dumping their milk products into the water. What had happened was that the gopis wanted to cross Manasi Ganga. It's described that Manasi Ganga was one of the biggest lakes in Vrndavana. It's shrinking, just like Govardhan is shrinking daily. So now it's not as big, but it used to be much larger. So the gopis wanted to cross to sell some milk products. And there was a boatman there on a very raggedy boat. They asked him, can you please take us across? The boatman says, yes, get on my boat. They got in. Halfway through, the boatman sat down and he said, oh, I'm actually very tired. I need some food. So if you give me some of your milk products, I'll eat a little bit and then I will continue this ride. So the gopis did like that. And he ate so much after eating. He said, oh, I'm too tired. Now I have to take a nap. So let me take my rest, then I'll continue taking the boat over. So after doing this, the gopis were becoming a little bit more agitated with the boatman. And as soon as that happened, a big storm came. And so the boatman said, my boat is sinking. You have to throw away all your milk products to relieve the weight on the boat. So they started doing that. And then he said, okay, that's not enough. Now you have to take all your ornaments to throw them off. So they started doing that as well. And the storm was getting more and more unbearable. And the boatman decided to give them some assurance. So he started rocking his boat back and forth. He said, do not worry, my boat is very sturdy. but actually he was creating more of a disturbance. So at this point, Srimati Radharani became afraid and she grabbed onto the boatman. And when she grabbed up to him, immediately she realized this is actually Krishna. And so she held on to him. And while she was holding on to him, the storm subsided. And then she pulled out from Krishna's, underneath his chadar, flute. And she showed the rest of the gopis, this is none other than Krishna. And at that point, they remained on the boat for some time and performed wonderful pastimes in Manasi Ganga. A very famous place, a very beautiful place, is Kusum Sarovar. Kusum means flowers, and Sarovar means lake. And so at this lake, we hear that Uddhava resides. Uddhava resides in Dwarka, and he also resides in Vrindavan, but he resides in Vrindavan in the form of creepers. Why? Because when Krishna went to Vrindavan and saw the love of the gopis, he wanted to get their blessings. He thought, I want to take some dust from their feet. But of course, the gopis wouldn't allow him to do that. So he decided to take on the form of creepers and remain there in Kusum Sarovar. So when the gopis would walk by, unknown to them, the dust from their feet will come upon his head and he will become purified in that way. Also, Narada Muni, it's described that he was once asking Lord Shiva to be able to see the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So Shiva gave him a mantra and he told him to go to this forest right next to Kusum Sarovar and chant this mantra. So Narada did that, and Vrindadevi came after some time, and Narada asked her, please, can you allow me to see the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna? Vrindadevi said, you can do that, but you cannot do it in your male form. So she dipped him in Kusum Sarovar and he came out in a gopi form. And she took him to Radhakund, where he was able to see the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And then Krishna instructed Narada to please write some instructions on the science of bhakti. So Narada went back to Kusum Sarovar, dipped in the waters again, came out in his original form of Narada, and he remained there on the banks writing Narada Bhakti Sutra. Kusum Sarovar is famous for the pastime where Krishna was performing as a gardener. And the gopis came there. They said that the gopis go there daily to pick some flowers for their worship. Sometimes it said that they were worshiping the sun god. And so they would pick flowers there. So they came one day to pick some flowers, and Krishna told them, you can't do this, you're stealing. I am the gardener here. This is the property of the king. So very eloquently, he began to describe how Srimati Radharani and the gopis are thieves, how their different limbs have stolen the beauty of the lotus, their knees and ankles have stolen the beauty of gold, their fingernails have stolen the beauty of the mirror, and in so many ways like this. And then he said, actually, I'm a very strict brahmachari, and it looks like you have come here to entice me. This is not very good. Radharani replied that, how dare you call yourself a brahmachari? He said, actually, if you're a brahmachari by force of circumstance, because nobody wants you, not because you are very capable to become brahmachari. Actually, this is kind of like the biggest insult you can tell a brahmachari. Because many have taken on to the path of renunciation, but they had so many wonderful qualities, like we hear the Goswamis of Vrindavan. They had so many capabilities, but they gave it all for a higher purpose. And so the ultimate reason for renunciation shouldn't be because one is good at nothing, but should be for one wants to do the highest service, or to use the human form of life for what it's ultimately meant for. And so the pastime continues that after quarreling like this for some time, finally one of the gopis, she tied Krishna's dhoti, Srimati Radharani, and she told them, okay, now we have to go to Radhakund. And so there's many beautiful pastimes like this. Of course, Radhakund is most intimately connected with Govardhan. Radhakund is the highest destination. Vaikunta is there, superior to which is Mathura. Superior to Mathura is Vrindavan. Superior to Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill. And the most excellent Radhakund is the supreme of them all. So Mahaprabhu, he discovered Radhakund. Originally, it was lost to vision. And many of the Goswamis live there, particularly Raghunath Das Goswami was known as the custodian of Radhakund. Many others as well were there. It's described that Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita on the banks of Radhakund. We can go visit the house of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a house there. Srila Prabhupada, I believe, the first time he met, or the second time he had the good amount of time to spend with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was at Radhakund. So Raghunath Das Goswami was known as the custodian. He was always thinking of how to renovate Radhakund. He wanted to make it bigger, but he didn't have the funds to do so. And so one time there was a very wealthy devotee of Badrinath in a far distant place from Vrindavan. But he had a dream. He was praying to his deity that I want to do some service for you. Please give me some service. So he had a dream. Badrinath showed up in his dream and he told him, you go to Vraj, you find Raghunath Das Goswami, and you offer all your wealth to him for his service. And if Raghunath Das rejects it, then you should remind him of his desire to renovate Radha Kund. So this devotee did that. He went to Raghunath Das and he told him, I had a dream. Badrinath told me to come to assist you in this service. And so Raghunath Das was very happy and he began his renovation of Radha Kund to create some banks around it, some facilities for the devotees to come. And in the process of doing that, there were some trees that they were thinking to take away those trees to be able to continue the construction. This was on the side of Shama Kund. So it was decided that the next day those trees will be chopped down. But in Raghunath Das Goswami's dream, the five Pandavas appeared to him and they told him that you cannot cut these trees down. They're actually us five Pandavas and we are residing here on the bank of Shama to be able to witness the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And so Raghunath Das Goswami did that. He didn't cut down the trees. So now when you go, you'll see that Radha Kund is a square, but Shama Kund is oddly shaped. There are many other instances. I'm reminded of the tree in the court of Krishna Balaram Mandir when they were building the temple. Srila Prabhupada told them, don't cut down this tamala tree, I believe. And it's still there today. It's getting the darshan of Radha Shama Sundar, hearing the kirtan. Originally, it was very dry, had no leaves on it. But after the temple was constructed, now it's a very lush tree. Devotees distribute books underneath that tree. Of course, in Kartik, we hear of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, who were in the form of trees in the house of Nanda Maharaj, and Krishna delivered them. It's said that Madhavendra Puri also, he is originally in the spiritual world, he is a kalpavriksha, he's a desire tree. It's manifested here with the seed of love of God, Madhurya. Yes, all the trees in Vrindavan are kalpavrikshas, wish-fulfilling desire trees. So in this way, we can see how Govardhan Hill is very dear to Krishna, very dear to the devotees. It is the place where Krishna's pastimes are eternally there. Krishna leaves, he goes back to Goloka, but he leaves his abode here for devotees to take shelter. So there's five most potent processes of devotional service, one of which is Madhurya, living in the holy place. So as much as we want to find attachment to chanting the holy name, attachment to associating with devotees, we also want to get attachment for living, visiting the holy place if we cannot live there. So we should try to remember Govardhan. We should try to go there. If we are very lucky, we maybe have the opportunity to worship Govardhan Shila, if the spiritual master gives us the instruction to do that. Of course, Govardhan Shila worship is the path of Ragamarg. There's the Shalagram Shila, which is the path of Vaidhi. It is none other than Narayan. And the Govardhan Shila is Krishna himself, as he proved to the residents of Vrindavan. Govardhan Shila worship began when Mahaprabhu, maybe there's instances before, but I do not know of. But what I'm reminded of is Mahaprabhu, who gave Raghunath Das Goswami a necklace of conch shells and a Govardhan Shila. And this indicated that he was giving Raghunath Das residence at Govardhan and service to Radha and Krishna. One time, my first time ever to Vrindavan, I didn't know that you can only get a Govardhan Shila if a Vrajavasi gives it to you. So I was there in Vrindavan and I thought, all these Govardhan Shilas, it'd be nice to take one back, you know, I have like a little souvenir. So I was walking and I was thinking, let me find, we were doing parikrama with all the devotees. I was thinking, I'll find a good one, you know, nice shaped Govardhan Shila. Take it back with me. So I was walking past this little outdoor temple. There's so many temples for the Govardhan. So I found one that I liked. So I went and I was sitting on top of this like little brick altar looking. It wasn't an altar, it was kind of like a ledge. So I took it and I had a smile on my face. I was about to put it in my pocket. And right then I heard a voice say, "Hey!" And I turned my head and it was a Vrndavana. And he said something in Hindi I couldn't understand, but I knew what he was saying is that put it back. So I put it back where it was. And then I told the devotee, and he told me, yes, you cannot take a Govardhan Shila. It has to be given to you. This last time we were there, I was also at Radhakund, and there was some rocks sitting there on the steps. So I was trying to figure out, I couldn't tell, there was two of them, and I couldn't tell are they Govardhan Shilas or not. So I picked one up, and I was just looking at it, trying to see, is it a Govardhan Shila or not? And while I was looking at it, another Vrndavana said, "Hey," he told me, "Put it down, it's a Govardhan Shila." So one has to be qualified to worship Govardhan, that's a fact. And the spiritual master will give that indication to be able to do so. By service to Govardhan, by service to the spiritual master, actually then everything is revealed to us. So this Sankirtan movement is important. We can't just go to Vraj and expect everything will be revealed, but by serving properly, then when we go there, then we're able to see, we're able to experience Krishna's presence eternally there. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he famously prays, Namashvreshtam Madhumapi Sachiputramat Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Uruparim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Ahoradikamadvasham Prapto Yasya Patita Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose mercy I have achieved the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, and the service of the son of Srimati Sachi Mata. The association of Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radhakund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the service of Shishi, Radha, and Krishna. So service to the Guru is very important. Our spiritual master has given us everything. He has given us the ability to hear about Govardhan, to go to Govardhan, to serve Govardhan. So we should always remember this. So I think I've gone over time here. I'll stop. And if there's any short comments or additions from anyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavata Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Beautiful morning class entitling it the Govardhan Leela was so refreshing. I had been there for once and I was just trying to recollect those sceneries as you explained, was so beautifully linked, and I was just relishing when you are describing the pastime, Kusum Sarovar, Govardhan Leela was so enchanting. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
reminding those pastimes in a very nice way. You really understand the importance of those pastimes of Lord Krishna and how they connect to our daily life is very, very important to understand the impact of those pastimes into our spiritual devotional life. They are really, really helpful. And that always refreshes our memory and allow us to connect to those pastimes so intimately. We feel really pleasure in remembering those pastimes. Thank you so much for enlightening those pastimes of Lord Krishna through Govardhan Leela, Kushum Sarovar, and all this. It's really, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else like to add?
Hi. Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just wanted to know that verse that you just said. Is it from Manashiksha?
That is by Raghunath Das Goswami, and I believe it's the second verse of Gopal Champu.
Thank you.
I'd have to look it up, but that's from memory. I think that's where it is.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for taking us all on Govardhan Parikrama on this Govardhan Puja Day. You're taken us all on Govardhan Parikrama. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, there's actually a very wonderful book about Govardhan Parikrama, if anybody has the opportunity to get it. It has many descriptions of all the pastime places around Govardhan, which are quite numerous. It's a very wonderful read. There's another one of all the pastime places around Radhakund. It's about a disciple of Prabhupada. I don't remember his name, but it's quite a big, kind of like a coffee table book. Not that devotees drink coffee, but you can keep it somewhere. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Giri Govardhan ki
Jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo evacha patitanam pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद
ki jai. His grace
वृंदावन मधुर्य दास
Srila
ki
Prabhupada
jai.
जय
Or Hari Hari Bol. All gifts to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.